Starting on the mat with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor and legs and feet hip width apart. So to find that, have your feet together, open the toes a little bit, open the heels. Just spend a few moments rolling your pelvis forward and back to find a place about halfway between the 2 points of flat to the mat and arched away from the mat, to find kind of a central place. You might like to put your fingertips on your pubic bone and the heels of your hands on your hip bones, just to check the orientation of the pelvis. We're looking for somewhere around a horizontal plane with those 3 bones there, so pubic bone and hip bones resting there. Also take a few moments to allow your upper body to settle into the mat with the shoulders softened away from the ears and the collarbones just lengthening away from the centre. Check in to your rib cage and allow the lungs to sink towards the back of your ribs and the back of the ribs to sink into the mat. We're going to add some movement onto this, but from this starting point, aiming to keep the pelvis still while we begin to move other body parts. Visualise each side of your pelvis like an old-fashioned pair of weighing scales. So there's a bowl on each side, and we want the weights in the bowls to stay really even as we begin to move. So you might want to put your fingertips just on your hip bones here to feel if there is any movement, or you end up with differing amounts of weights in your bowls. So beginning to just slide one leg away from you as you inhale, and then returning it as you exhale. So breathing in to slide away, breathing out to return. We're just going to move through a few of these. Again, just being aware of your pelvis being really steady, really still, and the weights in the bowls on either side of your pelvis being very, very even. From the leg slide, we're now going to go into a leg float. On an exhale now, we're going to float each leg one at a time up to this tabletop position and then down again. So we can exhale to float up, inhale to hold for a moment, and then exhale to float down again. All the time having the pelvis really steady, and that sense of allowing the lungs to just sink into the back of the ribs, and the back of the ribs just to sink into the mat. And then from here, we're going to take one leg up and then the other one as well into your tabletop position. I'll give you a couple of options. We can either have the hands behind the head and curl up, or you can keep your upper body down on the mat if you want to. On an out breath, we're going to extend one leg and bring it back. So breathing in, sort of in between, breathing out. So keeping that going, making sure that you're just supporting your head with your hands, no sort of pulling forward on the head. Just keeping a little space between your chin and your collarbones, and letting the head just sink into the hands. So if you need a little break here, we can just take the knees into the chest and just roll gently side to side, or you can keep going because we're going to add something on. So again, into this position, making sure that the pelvis stays really still and that you're still keeping the same relationship between your lower back and the mat. So we don't want to be rolling towards number 6 on the clock face, or really too much towards number 12 either. So here we've got our little reaches, and then let's see if we can rotate the upper body and the elbow towards the bending knee. So this is a crisscross exercise, working through into your obliques and all the muscles that help to rotate your body. Make sure you're breathing. So it's a little bit more difficult if your leg extends lower towards the floor. If you'd like to make it a little bit less difficult, you can take the leg a little bit higher towards the ceiling. And this is your kind of midway point. Okay, so we'll take a moment to just rest and rock. And then come down 1 foot at a time. From this position, let's roll onto your side. Just going to move my block and just make a little pillow with your upper arm for your head. This exercise is again a little bit for your waist muscles, but also a spinal mobiliser. We're going to have the lower leg bent, and then the top leg is going to be straight. And what I'd like you to do is have the foot of the top leg kind of flex, just as if you're standing on the floor, or maybe your foot is in the stirrup. Place your top hand on the top of your pelvis so you can feel your hip bone. And then, as we breathe in, we're going to reach this top leg in a line away from your body towards the wall opposite. So you'll feel the space between your pelvis and your ribs increase. We exhale to return, and then inhale to reach again, and exhale to return. So it's as if somebody is gently pulling your heel away from your body. So inhaling and then exhaling. So you'll really notice the waist kind of lengthening and then shortening. We'll aim to keep your leg parallel with the floor while you're doing this. So this is a bit of work also for these muscles here. So having your hand on this top hip kind of helps you to almost give a little bit of encouragement to that waist as well. Okay, you'll notice that as you do this, your lower waist reaches away from the floor and then returns. So we'll just do one more of these. And then just rest that leg. You might want to give that a little bit of a rub. So from here we're going to extend both legs out long, again with the feet flexed. We want to make sure that you're balancing on the bony lump on the side of your hip. So it is the most unstable point, I'm afraid, but we want to make sure that the body is stacked. So if you want to have a bit more challenge for this exercise, you can have your top hand here or here. If you need more support, then you can have the hand in front of your chest. Feet flexed as if we're standing on the floor. Exhale to bring the top leg to hip height. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to bring the bottom leg up to join it. Inhale to prepare, and then we're going to exhale to lower both legs. Aiming to keep the rest of your body completely still, so no wobbling. Alright, exhale again to bring the top leg up. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to bring the bottom leg up to join it. Inhale to prepare, and then we're going to exhale to lower the legs together. Let's do that 3 more times. So each time we're moving on an out breath. So we've got that little moment of holding the position. You can even squeeze the legs together a little bit once they are joined, as if they are held together by Velcro. See if you can keep a little bit of sensation of lift in your lower waist as you do this exercise. So as if you're wearing a rather smart belt and somebody is just pulling that belt up towards the ceiling. From here, we're going to change sides. So I'll have a little swivel around. And placing that top hand on your hip, we're going to have that lower leg bent a little, and then the top leg is going to be straight and floated to hip height. This is our leg lengthening exercise, so breathing in to reach the leg in line with your body away from you, and then exhaling to return. Inhaling to reach away and exhaling to return. So really being aware of the space between your pelvis and your ribs changing as you move through this exercise. As if somebody is very gently just drawing your heel away from your body. Again, you may be aware of some work going on in the muscles around the side of the hip, and also being aware of that lower waist being lifted away from the floor and then returned. Let's make this one our last. And then we can rest the top leg on top of the bottom one and just give it a little bit of a rub. Lengthen both legs now. We're going to do our leg lifting exercise. So again, remember, you can have your hand here, here, or here if you need a little bit more support, but we'll aim to keep the space between the top of your shoulders and your ears. So remember, we're going to move on an out breath. So lifting the leg on an out breath, pausing to breathe in, and then taking the other leg up on an out breath, and then lowering again on an out breath. So lowering with control, and then we will repeat, checking into your lower waist, Keeping that little sensation of somebody kind of lifting your waist up towards the ceiling. And aiming to keep your body really, really still. So if you find yourself rolling a little bit, then just check into, well, your lower waist lifting, but also keeping a feeling of connection between your pubic bone and your sternum. So almost imagine that's like an electrical current that needs to remain alive and not kind of broken. Let's go on to your back. So I'm just going to kind of spin around because my block is at this end. So back into our original start position with the feet hip width apart. We're going to start to peel the spine up into a bridge position. So rolling the pelvis back into the mat, peeling the spine up bone by bone into our ski slope. And then coming down one bone at a time. Now if you've been joining in with the last couple of weeks of workouts, you'll hopefully notice that in this bridge position, you're feeling quite a good amount of support from the sides of your body. So the work that we've just done on the sideline exercises really helps to provide support in this position. So it's quite a strong and stable bridge. Let's add onto this a little something. So again, rolling back through the pelvis, peeling the spine up into our bridge. Let's hold it. Pop the fingertips on the hip bones again so you can feel the movement. Now I'd like you to imagine that out of your tummy button, you've got a beam of light shining towards the ceiling. We're going to gently turn the pelvis to shine the beam of light left and right on the ceiling. Left and right on the ceiling. Keeping your hips up as you do this. You'll be feeling this hopefully in your bottom, maybe a little bit at the backs of your legs, maybe a little bit in your tummy as well. Centralise the pelvis and then we're going to come down bone by bone. This is a great one because the movement of your pelvis around your thigh bones is almost polishing the inside of the joint. So the pelvis is kind of polishing the top of the thigh bones on the inside. Let's go again. So rolling back through the pelvis, coming up to your bridge position, holding your bridge position. Check in that your shoulders are softly lengthened away from your ears while you're doing this. Let's turn the pelvis again. So that beam of light is moving on the ceiling, left and right, left and right. Keep the movement symmetrical as you can, precise and controlled. And feel how the pelvis turns around the thigh bones. Okay, centralise and then let's return to the mat. Let's just revisit an exercise that we did earlier on in the series. It just complements this quite nicely. We'll peel up again into your bridge. This time, there's going to be no turning of the tummy button. This time, you're going to be gliding the pelvis left and right, keeping the hip bones totally level as you do that and also keeping the knees as still as possible. So this action is like the carriage of an old-fashioned typewriter, moving left and right in the air. Centralise your pelvis, and then we come down through the bridge. We'll do that one more time. So peeling the spine up into your bridge. Fingers on the hip bones if you need to help to feel the movement. Off we go into our sliding. Notice how you can feel the work going on at the sides of your bottom, the sides of your hips. If you find that your knees are sailing about in these bridge exercises, you can place a folded up cushion in between your knees just to help you stabilise through there a little bit. From here, we will roll again onto our side and then into a 4-point kneeling position. And in your 4-point kneeling position, we're going to have your shoulders directly above your wrists and your hips directly above your knees. So you're creating a nice stable base, like a horse with a leg at each corner. Spread your fingers nice and wide. And then this exercise is a variation on a cat that I really love actually for helping you to unwind through the body. So gently pressing the floor away, as if you are a horse that's coming up through the withers. We're going to float your right hand off the mat just an inch or two. And the trick with this is to not bend through the elbow. We're going to do the same thing with the left. So if you look carefully at my shoulder blades, you'll be able to see that the shoulder blade is floating up towards the ceiling as if it's got a little balloon attached to the back of it. So it floats up and floats down, floats up and then floats down. And as you do this, feel how your breastbone turns. So if we had a beam of light shining again from our breastbone this time onto the mat, the beam of light would move left as we lift the left hand and right as we move the right hand. We're going to do exactly the same now, but with the legs, with the lower body. So this time you're going to imagine that you have your 2 balloons attached on each side of the back of your pelvis, so that the knee and the lower leg, the whole of the foot, floats away from the floor, one side at a time. Now with this one, just watch out for ending up moving over to the side. So we want to be floating vertically up towards the ceiling with your thigh, with your pelvis, with your knee and your foot. So almost like how a helicopter would take off vertically. And this time you'll notice your tummy button turning. You might want to take a break just to give your wrists a little bit of a circle. We're going to come back into position and now see if you can have a go at diagonal pairs. So you might find the movement is almost a little less perhaps when you're doing 2 ends at once. That's fine, but we're going to coordinate them in these opposite pairs. So right hand and left knee and returning, left hand, right knee and returning. So again, noticing that lovely spiralling pattern through the body. It's like a really slow piaffe. Make sure you're breathing and moving with flow. Okay, super. From here, we're going to come up into a standing position. So I'm just going to back you up a little bit so you can see clearly. From your 4-point kneeling position, tuck your toes underneath. We're going to walk the hands back towards your knees and then just rock back onto the feet so you end up in a little bunny hop position. If you now look at the floor between your two hands, we're going to send the bottom up into the air and then roll up into standing for our last exercise. Take the feet as wide as you comfortably can and aim to have your feet facing forwards, so no kind of funky toes out or heels out, so just parallel. And then from this point, we're going to start to just shift the weight to one side and then the other. So you'll feel that one leg is straight and then you've got a bend in the other one. So just a little weight shift. And as you do that, hopefully you'll be able to feel a stretching through the inside of the thighs. So just nice and steady. And then we're going to start to send your bottom back behind you as you do that weight shift. So sending the bottom away behind and then returning to the centre before we change sides. That may intensify the feeling through your adductors, your inner thighs a little bit. What I want you to also focus on as you do that is when you take the weight over to one side, make sure that the outside border of both feet, but particularly the one that's stretching, stays well connected with the mat. So it feels quite different if you kind of let the foot roll away. So really keep that outside border connected. So you can have a bit of a play here really with reaching forward, reaching towards the floor, and see how that feels through the hips and the thighs. Sending your bottom back and reaching forward. Now let's be a bit creative. So instead of just reaching forward, what we can start to do is reach across. So reach across this way and this way. And what about reaching not just this way, but also this way? And coming back. So this way, but what about this way? And then this way again. So just starting to put a little bit of 3D motion through the body. And just notice that gives all a very bit of a slightly different feel through your hips. And then let's walk your feet back in. And so that concludes our third session. I really hope you've enjoyed them. Do take a moment now to just check into your body and notice how you feel through your feet, your legs, your hips, pelvis, and your upper body. And I'd love to hear from you, so please do get in touch if you'd like to know more. See you soon.